In the year 2000, I was living a simple life in a quiet suburb of Chicago. My routine was predictable: work at a local car repair shop during the day, grab a beer with friends at O'Malley's in the evenings, and watch reruns of old detective shows before heading to bed. I wasn't what anyone would call exciting, but it was my life, and I was content with it. Or so I thought. One chilly November evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, I heard a firm knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I hesitated before opening it. Standing there were two police officers, their uniforms neatly pressed and their faces serious. My heart raced. Was someone hurt? Had I done something wrong? "Mr. Carter James?" the taller officer asked. His tone was professional but not unkind. "That's me," I replied, my voice shaky. "Is everything okay?" The shorter officer stepped forward. "We're here about your daughter." I blinked, confused. "My what?" "Your daughter," he repeated. "A girl named Emily, born 8 years ago. Her mother recently passed away, and your name is listed as the father on her birth certificate." I stumbled back, gripping the doorframe for support. This had to be a mistake. "I don't have a daughter." I mean, I don't think I do." The taller officer handed me a folded piece of paper. "This is the documentation. We've already verified it. Emily's been staying in foster care since her mother's passing. But as her biological father, you're her next of kin." The words on the paper blurred as my mind raced. I vaguely remembered a whirlwind romance with a woman named Laura back in 1991. We had met at a music festival, spent a few passionate weeks together, and then drifted apart. Could she have been pregnant when we parted ways, Laura? Her name alone sent a jolt through me, stirring up memories I had buried long ago. She was the kind of woman you couldn't forget: wild, free-spirited, with a laugh that could light up the darkest room. I remembered the way her fingers felt intertwined with mine as we walked along the beach that summer, and the way her eyes glimmered when she talked about dreams that felt too big to chase. We had talked about everything. Except the future. And now, a piece of that future was standing at my doorstep in the form of a daughter I never knew existed. "Where is she now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "She's at a local foster home," the shorter officer said. "We can arrange for you to meet her if you're willing." The next few days were a whirlwind of paperwork, phone calls, and sleepless nights. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Me, a father? It seemed surreal. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't turn my back on Emily. She had lost her mother. The least I could do was be there for her now. When the day of our meeting arrived, I was a bundle of nerves. The foster home was a modest, two-story house with a swing set in the front yard. I walked up the steps, my palms sweating, and rang the doorbell. A woman in her late 40s greeted me and led me to the living room. And there she was. Emily. She had Laura's auburn hair and bright green eyes, but there was a wariness in her gaze that broke my heart. She clutched a stuffed rabbit, her knuckles white. "Hi, Emily," I said, kneeling to her level. I'm Carter. I'm your dad." She didn't say anything at first, just studied me with those piercing eyes. Then, after what felt like an eternity, she whispered, "Do you like ice cream?" I chuckled, relief washing over me. "I love ice cream." "What's your favorite flavor?" "Mint chocolate chip," she said, a tiny smile tugging at her lips. "Mine too," I lied, knowing full well I preferred vanilla. But in that moment, I'd have said anything to make her smile. That was the beginning of our journey together. It wasn't easy, far from it. Emily had her own scars, and I had to learn how to be a parent from scratch. The nights were often restless. Emily would wake up screaming from nightmares, and I'd sit by her bed, holding her tiny hand as she sobbed. There were times when she'd lash out, her pain manifesting as anger, and I'd have to remind myself that she was just a child trying to make sense of her world being ripped apart. But the challenges didn't stop there. A week after Emily moved in, I received an anonymous letter in the mail. It was a single sheet of paper with the words, "You don't know the whole truth about Laura," scrawled in jagged handwriting. My stomach dropped. Who had sent it? And what didn't I know? Over the next few weeks, I began piecing together Laura's life from the fragments Emily shared and the few belongings left behind. It turned out Laura had been tangled in something dangerous, a toxic relationship with a man who didn't take kindly to being left behind. Emily occasionally mentioned a man named Uncle Ray who used to visit, and from the way her voice trembled, I knew he was no loving relative. One night, as I was tucking Emily into bed, she whispered, "Mommy told me to hide when Uncle Ray got angry." My blood ran cold. Laura had shielded Emily from more than just the hardships of single parenthood, she protected her from a looming threat. The mystery deepened when I found a locked box among Laura's belongings. It was hidden beneath a false bottom in her suitcase. After days of debating, I pried it open to find a bundle of documents, court orders, restraining orders, and a letter addressed to me. The letter, written in Laura's handwriting, revealed the lengths she had gone to keep Emily safe and the secrets she'd kept from me out of fear that involving me would put us all in danger. "Carter," the letter began, "if you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and Emily is with you. I never told you because I was scared. Ray isn't her father, but he thinks he has a claim to her. Please protect her. She's all that matters." The weight of her words crushed me. I had inherited not just a daughter but a storm of unresolved chaos. And as if on cue, strange things began happening. A car I didn't recognize started appearing outside my house at odd hours. One night, I came home to find the back door slightly ajar, though I was sure I'd locked it. Emily began waking up more frequently, crying about shadows at her window. I knew I couldn't do this alone. I reached out to an old friend, Jake, who worked as a private investigator. Together, we started unraveling Laura's past. It wasn't pretty. Ray had a criminal record, and it seemed he wasn't ready to let go of whatever hold he thought he had over Laura's life or Emily's. The tension came to a head one rainy night when I heard a loud crash from the living room. Grabbing the baseball bat I kept by my bed, I crept downstairs to find the front window shattered and a brick lying on the floor. Taped to it was a note, "She's mine." Fear turned to resolve. I wasn't going to let anyone take Emily from me. The next day, Jake uncovered that Ray had skipped town years ago but recently resurfaced in Chicago. We notified the police, but I knew the system moved slowly. Too slowly. One evening, as Emily and I were walking back from the park, I noticed a figure trailing us. My heart pounded as I tightened my grip on her hand. "Stay close to me," I whispered. When we reached the house, I ushered her inside and locked the door. Minutes later, there was a knock. It wasn't the police. Looking back, I realized that knock on my door was the best thing that ever happened to me. Emily didn't just change my life, she gave it meaning. But she also brought with her a storm I had to face, reminding me that love and family are worth every battle, no matter how fierce.